Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Games and Things. I just told you that Safety Systems can build you a state-of-the-art home theater room by the time college football season rolls around. Well, Games and Things, they got the best home theater seats for you. They can go right in that room. I got my last two home theater seats at Games and Things and have been thrilled by them. They are fantastic. They have a great selection, great prices, just tops in the area. So if you're looking for home theater seating, if you can't afford the whole home theater room, upgrade the room you've got with a couple of comfortable, really nice home theater seats from Games and Things. Check them out at ourgameroom.com or at Kingston Pike at Level Road. Okay, for 15 years I have used Ken Pomeroy's advanced metrics to look at the types of teams that give UT trouble. Then we apply those stats to the team UT could face in the NCAA tournament. It's geekery, but it's no different than ESPN's FPI rankings or something else. Just something we do on the show. Typically it's been pretty accurate. Wasn't last year. Let's explain this whole thing. Let's go to the graphic. All right, so what we do, we compare all Tennessee's 25 regular season foes this year across 31 different stats. And yes, this takes a lot of time. We found 12 stats out of those 31 that seem to suggest whether Tennessee would or wouldn't struggle against a specific team. I applied those 12 stats to more than 100 possible NCAA tournament teams. The system, as I say, is usually pretty accurate. When Bruce Pearl was here, it was almost perfect because it was all just down to tempo. Under Rick Barnes, it's been pretty accurate. Not always, though, because the system doesn't consider things like injuries, which Tennessee's had bite them a couple of times. All the stats come from pre-conference tournaments. It's regular season. So if a team like Oregon State last year plays out of their minds in the Pac-12 tournament, gets in the dance, this system doesn't tell you that Oregon State is red hot right now. Also, you still have to look at athleticism. Like Villanova and NC Greensboro, for example, might have the same categories and styles of play that could trouble Tennessee, but you'd still rather play North Carolina Greensboro's athletes than you would Villanova. So there's still some eye test you have to use, of course. And then finally, none of us can project who's going to be hot or who's going to be cold on a given day. All right, so when we look at the 12 stats that matter, let's go ahead and put those up for you. I'm not going to break them all down for you, but Mark took a look at these, and we're going to tell you some of these that matter for Tennessee: offensive and defensive efficiency rating. Basically, if you have a top 50 offense, if you don't have a top 50 offense, you're not going to trouble the Vols this year, we found. If you don't have a top 40 defense, you're not going to trouble the Vols. So that says pretty good stuff for Tennessee in the tournament. There aren't a lot of teams there. That's 350 teams in the country. The only ones that really made them struggle were top 50 offenses, top 40 defenses. Average possession length on defense, teams that make you take longer on the offensive end. Effective field goal percentage defense, that's weighted against three-point shots. So teams that Tennessee has struggled against teams that have been better defending long shooters. Turnover percentage defense, offensive rebound percentage makes sense. Teams that grab more offensive rebounds get more second chance points. They've been trouble for Tennessee this year. Free throw attempts versus field goal attempts. That's how much you get to the line, Mark.
Yeah, and I think that goes also with the rebound side of it. I think you've got the teams that are the more aggressor. They're attacking us downhill. We'll talk about the tempo, but they're the initiators. Those are the teams that have shown to give us more trouble. And I think it is a parallel between that and the rebounding side of things.
Okay, and then the next one on that list is two-point percentage offense. Tennessee was 11-0 this year against teams that don't score a lot from inside, a lot of the two-point games. They were just 12-7 against teams that do have a solid game inside the arc. So I don't think that surprises me, but your thoughts there.
I think one of the things that tells me is that teams that are more one-dimensional, they can't score at all levels. They're easier for Tennessee to defend. If they're a one-dimensional basketball team like Toshibwe, they were trying to get the ball into him yesterday. They couldn't score from the outside. Tennessee was able to beat them.
Okay. Next on the list were two-point percentage defense, just the opposite of what you just talked about. Block percentage defense, that one surprised me a little bit. That's rare for a Tennessee Rick Barnes team. But Tennessee was 11-1 versus teams that don't block a lot of shots. They were 12-6 against teams that do. And these stats that we're looking at, we're basically talking Tennessee wins 95% of the games if a team doesn't do X, and they win about 50 or 60% if a team does do X. So it's a big drop-off is why we're looking at these numbers. Two things that I found interesting here at the bottom. I'm going to talk to you about them, Mark. I have never seen in 15 years of doing this experience matter. And Ken Pomeroy does a thing where he grades the number of players, how many minutes they get based on how much veteran, what class they are, et cetera. Tennessee had more trouble with experienced teams than they did inexperienced teams. That makes sense, but I've never seen it before as bold-faced as it was this year. Is that just a theory? Is that because Tennessee's defense is so good that inexperienced guards might not know how to react to it, they might press a little too much? What are your thoughts here?
I think never have we seen, I can't remember the last time we've had 2 freshman point guards that are running the show. I think our experience ties into that. I think the opponents, the more experienced, like the Villanovas, the Texas A&M, they've got that toughness to go against the multiple looks defensively. They can chase the motion offense. The defenses know how to read screens. And so I think it has to do with our point guard play and the experience of being able to defend the different motion looks that we run.
There you go. I was looking at it from an offensive standpoint. You're looking at it, well, I was looking at it from a defensive standpoint. You looked at it an offensive standpoint. Very good. All right, tempo. This was one stat that always mattered in the Pearl era. Hasn't so much with the Barnes era. Very small sample this year, but 2 of Tennessee's losses came against Villanova and Texas, and those are 2 of the slowest teams in the country. Your thoughts on tempo? Teams that take it slow against Tennessee have had a little bit of success.
Yeah, we start duplicating what those slower teams do. What I mean by that is all of a sudden Kennedy Chandler starts pounding the ball more. We start massaging the ball more. We are really good when that ball is moving, the bodies are moving, the defenses don't know where we're cutting. And so when a team plays slower, we oftentimes end up players slowing offensively, which is not to our advantage.
David, Jimmy, I hope you enjoyed that segment. You offered a lot. I appreciate you being here. Hey, look at it this way. You're getting paid just to sit there.
There you go.
We didn't make any unforced errors.
No unforced error. All right, when we come back, let's apply these stats. So of these 12 stats that matter, we look at which teams cross that barrier the most times, and those are the teams you don't want to face. And then the teams that don't check a lot of the boxes, I'd rather see those. So who's on that? Who's in those lists? We'll show you next. Coming back on the Sports Source.